I love Digimon. Like, I love Digimon. I love Digimon. I started when I was a teenager watching it on Fox Kids. Season 1 is by far the best and superior of all Digimon seasons. Season 2 is extremely good and entertaining, and that's my second favorite. However, after that, Digimon kind of went downhill. Like, I just wasn't into it no more, and it's because the other seasons just weren't all that great. The Digivolutions were, but just the story and the overall, like, just plots. Now I get it, they can't all be like season 1 and season 2. They had to be something different. I get that, but they should also be entertaining and stuff. I remember when I watched season 3 of Tamers, I was so confused. I thought, like, it would take place after season 2. I mean, you even saw Terriermon in there. And he's from the, American version, he's from the Digimon movie. But in the Japanese version, he's from those completely different anime, like movie shorts and stuff. But then it's kind of like, it wasn't. It was one of those alternate dimensions that Jedi specified in the second arc of season 1. So I'm like, okay, whatever, but I was still confused just watching it. And I remember when I watched season 3, I know a lot of people love it because they say, oh, it's the greatest of all Digimon seasons because it's dark. Just because something's dark, don't make it good, alright? I remember, like, when I was watching season 3, I loved the Digivolution. The new characters were alright. My main problem was it's just the story was lackluster and kind of boring. Like, I didn't know where it was gonna go because I was still assuming that it was gonna, connect somehow to the other seasons. And I remember the first arc was extremely lackluster when they was in the real world, and you really don't understand or get an explanation as to why Digimon are the way they are and why kids call them tamers, and they do competitive stuff and stuff like that. Then in the second arc, they're in the Digi world. And normally when you're in the Digi world, that's when everything kicks up and it's like a whole lot more fun. And it was still boring because we were still trying to figure out the rules of their digital world, which is completely different from the other one. And you get a little bit more explanation, but not really. And then in the third arc, things kick up a little bit more because you start to find out who now is the real villain. Because this other time we assumed these other Digimon were the villains and they weren't. And then it turns out, the villain was just this man-made thing, and it was by these adults, and they're the ones who create the Digivices, and they're the ones who create the digital world, and they're the ones who create all the power-ups. And it was just like it just wasn't fun, you know. There was no real exploration like it was in the first season. And it just bored me to crap. And then the whole Jared thing was cool, but how they did Leomon was just so wrong. That dude never gets the respect that he deserves, man. And it's just, it was just different. And then it left off on a cliffhanger, which I assume is going to be, brought up probably like in another season. But actually, when the fourth season came out, I had no idea the fourth season even came out when it came out. I remember waking up, I think one morning, probably like if it wasn't high school, it was college, and just turn on TV to a completely different channel because Fox Kids wasn't. It was starting to shift out and come like Fox Box and stuff. And I remember I saw this Digimon show. I'm just like, wait, Digimon's still on? I didn't know that. And then I was on watching it. I'm just like, well, where their partners at? And then next thing I know, the humans Digivolve 'cause they had the whole spirit thing. I'm like, oh wow, that's kind of cool. Like that humans finally get to Digivolve into like Digimon, which was cool because but at the same time, it kind of robbed the essence of what this first season was all about, or the other three seasons. Because it's supposed to be like this whole partnership of having this tiny little monster that can transform into a bigger monster, and it kind of robs that feel. But it was still cool at the same time. And then like I remember I watched season 4 on Hulu years ago, and I thought it wasn't that bad. It was all right. I liked it a whole lot more than season 3. But and then I decided, and then it's kind of like I respect what they did. Like I can respect that all these different seasons want to have their own feel to it, but I also respect season 4 a whole lot more than season 3 because it tried to call back to season one, but with a different spin to it. You know, they did their own thing. The kids were in the digital world. They were exploring. They were trying to figure things out on their own. That's the problem I had with season three. They could never figure things out on their own, and it was the adults telling them, you know, why this is this and that is that, you know. And then after that, the other two seasons came out, and I had no idea they came out. And then when I did find out they came out, I tried to watch season five, and I couldn't get past the first couple of episodes. Like I just couldn't. Like the main dude, who's always wanting to punch everything, he got on my nerves. And I just couldn't. I gave up. I just gave up. I was in like probably 3 episodes in, maybe 4 or 5, and I'm just like, I'm done. I'm done. But I love the digivolution in that one. That one was awesome. And as for the last one that I believe is on Netflix, I hate that season so much. I could not even finish it. I watched a whole lot more episodes than I did of the fifth one. But as for the sixth season of Digimon, I just could not. Like it was just bad. I mean, really, there's only one Digimon who ever gets to Digivolve, and he connects all the other Digimon to himself. But there's a bunch of kids in it. Like that doesn't make no sense. And he's supposed to be like the ruler of the digital world, and it's kind of like, and he had the most annoying voice. I think his name was Shoutmon, and of course that's what he does. He shout, and it's just like I watched like a couple episodes, maybe 10, 15 at the most, and then I stopped. And then years later, I tried to watch it again to the second arc, and I'm like, okay, it's a little bit better than the first one, but I still just couldn't get into it, and so I gave up after probably like 2 episodes or so. I out, and so it's like I just couldn't do it, and so I just gave up on that entire season, and I'm just like, I'm done. Then I heard there was a bunch of like movies that each season has that ties in, or it's supposed to tie in to the Digimon seasons. And I'm like, cool, but when did these things come out? Where can I watch these things? I was able to find like I think 1 or 2 on YouTube, but of course, YouTube police took it down. And like my problem with I don't like anime movies that are based off of TV shows. They're just never good, in my opinion. They always try to like one up the series, but they do it in a way that doesn't feel like it flows really with the rest of the show. Now, to be fair, I haven't seen every Digimon movie that came out after their series and stuff. I really want to see the one from the first 2 seasons, but I am unable to find that online. Like I have searched, and I cannot find it. And I've searched every possible way I could like think of searching. I still just can't find it. Now, of course, those Digimon movies were combined into the American version, and it confused the crap out of me. I mean, it has somewhat of a flow, but not really. It feels so disjointed, and it's just like that's one reason why I didn't like the American Digimon movie at all. And I tried my best to, but I was just so confused because I didn't see those other movies and stuff. Because like in Ronin Warriors, it was just complete crap. The movies were like, I was like, oh my god, this is so awesome. Like, I finally get to see something that happens after the TV show, and then what I saw happen was this kind of like, like that's it. Like, really, that's all y'all can come up with? So apparently, that white armor that was so powerful, so like awesome in the show, apparently it's evil. Now, really, you're gonna do that crap? Now, as for Sailor Moon, I love Sailor Moon R. And I do like the one Well, the movie, the R movie. And I do like the one that has to do with I forgot what it's called. Maybe it's Sailor Moon S the movie probably. It's the one where it's like this giant boat and it starts off with somebody playing like a flute type thing and it kind of like brainwashes these kids where they go on the boat and then they go away. And there's a little kid and it's like these candy type villains and it's that one. I like that one and I like the R one. As for the one that has to do with like kind of like the ice monster type thing, I don't like that one, I believe. And then it's kind of like I remember asking myself, well, when exactly does the movie take place? They're supposed to take place within Sailor Moon seasons, but there's no way they can. There's just no way. There's no way they took a side adventure, had a new villain, and did this. No matter how you try to say it, it just doesn't happen, you know? And so then I remember I was doing some research on Digimon, and I remember I saw that they came out with the movie, the Digimon Tri movies, and I was so excited for those movies. But then next thing you know, I watched the movies, and I'm just like, wow, this is a boring mess. Like it's too adult. Like there's no real good like adventures, and it's so confusing. And I hate Tri. I hate Digimon Tri. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. One thing about Try I really hated was their faces. Their faces looked so bizarre. Now there are some good things with Digimon Try, I will admit. Um, I love the Digivolutions. It was nice having an upgrade. Some of the action that they actually had was good. When I say some, because there really isn't that much action. However, the movie was trying to be so um bigger and grand that the story felt so convoluted with all these twists and turns and all these like red herrings. And then they did season two characters so wrong, so dirty in the Try movies. They kept mentioning them. They disappeared. When you see them, it's only almost like a silhouette type thing. And it's just kind of like, that's it. Like, they deserve so much better than that, you know? I didn't never really like season two cast. I hated Davis. Yu Lee was okay, but got on my nerves. And I forgot the dude's name, the little dude. The little dude got on my nerves big time. But I like their Digimons. They had a cool story arc, all of them did, you know. But they just did them wrong, you know. And Ken I like, but you know, like I said, they did him wrong. And then you think Ken's like the villain, but he's not. And then, you know, it turns out that I believe, I can't really remember because I think it has to do with the original Digidestin. And also that new girl they created in her Digimon. And I just remember thinking to myself, cool, you know, we're finally gonna get some information on the original Digidestins. Because it's not the ones from season one. They alluded to it towards the end in a silhouette type thing. And their Digimon was completely different from the one we saw in the silhouette. Which, okay, the only reason why they look the way they did in the silhouette because probably like time consumption. They probably just didn't have the time to create all new looking Digimon, so they just copied the ones from season one, which always bugged me. But okay, it was nice to see new Digimon characters from the original Digidestin, so that was nice. Even though it does contradict the movie, I mean the TV show. Um, but as for Digimon Try, I just flat out hated that movie. And because of the dismal response from the fans, that's why they created this last movie. And this last movie, you know, it was so much better than Try. It wasn't perfect by no means, but it had a better flow, a nice symmetry. It had nice throwbacks to like the original television series. And they actually had the season two cast in this movie. However, because fans were pissy about how the season two cast were treated in Try, they decided to cram the season two cast in this movie. Basically, you could take them out the movie and it would change absolutely nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. For some bizarre reason, the season two cast are in America. And they're on their own little adventure. They kind of help out the original cast by finding information on the FBI agent who was supposed to be Minua's assistant. But that's about it. But like I said, you could take it out, and it wouldn't matter because the original Digidestin figured that out on their own. And so they have their battles with like the villain and stuff, but it's a side adventure. Like literally, you could just take them out, and it wouldn't matter. They was only there to please the fans who was upset about the Try movies. It was fan service, pretty much just like that, you know. But all in all, this movie was so sad towards the end because it's kind of like, no, they have to leave them forever. But I'm like, wait a minute, if the Digimon leave forever, then what about the epilogue and the ending of season two? But you know, when it comes to stuff like that, you know, they always say, "Oh, this is y'all last adventure. You're never gonna see Digimon again. You're never gonna enter the digital world again." But we was told that in season one, and then what happened in season two? They're right back in the digital world, and they're right back with their Digimon. You gotta remember, just like they said in season one of Digimon, saying goodbye doesn't mean forever. They always come back. However, with that saying, that kind of contradicts something that happens in this movie from the original TV show. So let's start talking about the movie. When I watched this movie, I noticed one interesting thing. Like, it felt like I was watching the American Digimon movie. Like, there were like certain situations and scenes that were nearly identical to that. And of course, the American Digimon movie is a combination of the separate Digimon movies that came after the first season. And so I'm just like, that's kind of weird. They couldn't come up with like an explanation on their own. So they had to like, you know, copy like from another movie and stuff. And the thing about this movie was supposed to tie in to like, you know, the ending to season two. It was, you know, because the Try movies just didn't do that. When you watch the Try movies, you're kind of like, okay, well, how did this tie in to everything else that we saw in the other movies and stuff? But anyways, so the similarities, let's just do that first. The similarities from the last evolution from the American Digimon movies are like, you know, it starts off with them being in the real world and we see this weird funky stuff happening in the sky because, you know, the digital portal is kind of like opening up. I forget this Digimon's name, but I'm gonna call him Parrotmon because I can't really remember his name. And he shows up just like he did in the American movie, and you know, so he's wreaking havoc on the city. And you know who's taking him on, of course? Tai and his Digimon Agumon and Greymon, which in the American movie they said that Agumon and that Greymon wasn't ties, but he's a version kind of. You know, there's several ones that look the same, but you know, pretty much it's just that is Greymon fighting, you know, Parrotmon and stuff. The similarities is that in the American movie, the only Digidestins that actually get to fight the main bad guy is Ty, Matt, Izzy, and TK, and that's kind of how it is in this movie. It's only really them fighting Parrotmon. But you know, they throw Kari in the mix too, and Izzy's just doing the computer stuff from afar. However, there is this like Digi hub that I like to call that's across. It's the thing that's between the real world and the digital world. And basically, it's like this really cool cybernetic type place, and that's where this huge battle ensues. And you know, it's TK, it's Matt, it's Ty, and it's Izzy, and it's their Digimon fighting like the main bad guy type thing. And it's like really cool. They're getting their butts kicked, and then you know, Agumon and God, it's been a while since I've seen it. I forgot his name. Um, what's his name? Matt's Digimon. They combine to form Omnimon, and so they're fighting and this and that. In the American movie, they defeat it. They think they do, but they don't. And part of it gets away. And then in this one, you know, something happens where they're unable to stop it. and like the bad Digimon like gets away similar to how it did in the American one. Also, what's interesting about this is that this Digimon is like a virus type Digimon that's created by humans. So it's basically just like a computer virus Digimon that's created by humans and similar to the American one. Just like in the American one, Joe, Mimi, Sora, like they're like pretty much non-existent in this movie. They pop in just to pop out real fast because they're busy with their adult lives and stuff. And their Digimon never really get to help out, and they don't really get to help out. So that was like a huge bummer. Also, TK and Kari, they pop in just to pop out too. And like they're always like kind of like on their own kind of thing, on their little side adventure. And you see Kari with the whole well, in the American one she's on a train, and then in the new one she's on a subway train. Then in both movies, like towards the middle, you find out that, oh, the big bad Digimon is a human creation from like this person, and the person's not really that bad. In the new movie she is kind of bad, but she has her reasons and stuff. And then the last arc, there's like this huge battle that takes place, and like the main evil Digimon is like really kicking their butts, and so it takes the two main Digimon to have like a huge power up, and then they like defeat the bad Digimon and stuff. Another similarity is towards the end of the fight, the teens and adults, or Digidestins, whatever you want to call them, are reverted back into children. This is similar both in the American movie. Now, one way they're able to defeat the bad girl and everything is that Ty takes the whistle of Kari and he blows it as hard as he can, which is another throwback to the movie, the American one, because he blows it, and that's able to wake up Greymon to where he like destroys like Paramon. So anyway, and then they have to say goodbye to Digimon again, but then in the new movie they say goodbye, but then there's that whole thing of like, oh, but we'll see each other again in the future. And then in the American one, it's like he says goodbye to Kokomon, but then she gets like restored because in that world when you kill Digimon, they come back as an egg and this and that. So it felt like I was just watching the American movie, just completely different and a whole lot better, where it flowed a whole lot better. And that's basically like just the whole movie I just described. Like pretty much what it is, it starts off with Paramon and the Digidestin and their Digimon. They're fighting and they defeat him, send him back to the digital world through a digital portal. We find out this takes place about 5 years after Tri. So they're getting ready to graduate college and go into the real world. Izzy already has his own job. Ty is trying to like figure things out. Matt was alluded to want to be a police officer, but he said that's ridiculous. But we see him do some detective work. Sora. Okay, what is the deal with Sora in these movies? Sora, like, okay, in the American one, she's not kaput in that movie. She doesn't help out at all. She's just doing her own little thing. And then in this movie, it's the same thing. She's not helping out in the battle. She's just doing her own thing. And I'll let's put a pin in that later. Because, this one thing is like she hasn't really been treated very nicely ever since they started doing like these movies and stuff. And so after the battle, they meet this woman, and what is it? And she's telling them about this evil Digimon type thing. Her name is Minuwa. She has an assistant, and this evil Digimon, what it does is like I think it takes like the collective memories of the Digidestin and it wipes them clean. To where I think what it is that they no longer remember they had like Digidestin and stuff like that, and they kind of like comatose. So they have to stop this thing before it attacks like them and all the other ones. At this point in time, it kind of it's similar to season 2, where we have the main Digidestin cast from season 1 and season 2. They still have their Digimon, and a couple other kids around the world, they have them too, because they saw that huge battle between Agumon, Greymon, and then Paramon from like the original ones and stuff. And so, they go into like the digital hub type thing and they try to defeat him. He's super powerful. But then, I, Agumon and God, what is his name? The little blue thing. Gabumon, that's it. They combine into Omnimon. The fight is somewhat similar to that. He goes in for the kill, but then something happens. Something happens to their Digivice that causes him to stop, and then the evil Digimon gets away. Now, in this movie, it's a little confusing. You have to kind of use your brain to think outside the box. When we first see them fight in the first battle, we see them with these new Digivices that are like cell phones. I remember seeing that in the trailer. I assumed that was going to be a power-up towards the end. However, I think it's implied that Izzy created these things. Just like he created Ty's new goggles that can scan stuff. Similar to how it was in Try. Basically what it is this. They keep their Digivices, like at home. And they take their new cell phone things. And their cell phones are just like cell phones. That's all it is. It has like an upgrade to it. It's basically like this. Pretend that the original Digivices is the TV. These cell phones is like a little speaker box type thing. And they're connected through like a Bluetooth type thing. That's basically what it is. It's like a relay system. And so why? I don't know. Like seriously, I have no idea. They never explain why this is and why they have it and stuff. But then when we see both the Digivices and we see the little cell phone thing, it has these weird glowy bars on them. And she explains that your Digimon about to leave you forever because something happened that has corrupted the system, like something like that. You're adults now, and Digimon don't stay with their partners forever. It's just not like that because she's done like a lot of research that she tells them, and basically your Digimon come to you when you're kids, and when you're adults and your main battle is over, they go away, and now they're adults. They're finna go into the real world. And so she said once the last bar is gone, that's it. Boom, compute. It's just like, that's it. They go back to the digital world and you don't see them no more. And so it's like, so the kids are like all upset. And it's a tearjerker, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, oh no, not again, man. I remember when that happened in the first season and towards the end. And she said, if your Digimon digivolve and start doing like more fights, that will accelerate them, and to the point where those bars will go away a whole lot faster. So then we get to the middle of the movie where it kind of slows things down, where a whole lot of talking happens. The kids are upset. The Digimon are upset. We don't see Joe, Mimi, or Sora because like they're barely in this movie. But then we do see Sora, and she tells Biyamon, like I said, I'm done. I told you before, I'm done with fighting. I just want to spend as much time with you as I can. And it's just like, why? Why did they do Sora so dirty? I don't get it. And so and it's supposed to be like this little short movie with her in it, but it's not dubbed yet. And I don't do subtitles at all. Like I hate the whole subtitle thing. That's why I haven't watched Digimon 2020, because I'm not gonna read subtitles. I'd rather hear everything and see everything. And so the kids trying to figure out how they can keep their Digimon, and also how they can defeat the villain. So they're doing all this research and stuff, and the O2 kids doing their research in America. And it turns out that with all the research that they're doing and stuff, meanwhile isn't exactly what she says she is, neither is her assistant. It turns out, after the research that they did, that Minuwa was a Digidestin, and she had her very own Digimon, and she had one of the original Digivices from 01. When exactly was she a Digidestin? I don't know. It's never explained. She's not one of the original Digidestin because she can't be, because she didn't show up and try. So she must have been like an in-between thing. However, she can't be an in-between thing between the original Digidestin and the 01 cast, because she tells Ty that, one reason why she sought him and his group out is because she knew that they could defeat this evil. Because and then she calls Ty and his group the original Digidestin, but they're not the original Digidestin. The original Digidestin happened many, many, many years, like about a decade or so before '01 happened. So okay, she's not part of Ty's group. We know that for sure. She's not one of the original Digidestin, and she's older than Ty, or around the same. Oh, it's not really explained how old she is, but she appears to be around their age, probably. So either she became a Digidestin in between the original ones in '01, or she became one, um, just like many other kids did around the world that we didn't find out about until like the movies came out. However, that don't make no sense because she was a kid when she got her Digimon, and when she became an adult, she lost her Digimon. And so, when exactly does this take place? It just doesn't make no sense. And how old exactly is she? And it turned out that her assistant, he is an FBI agent from America. And so he's explaining to Matt like how he's been tracking this lady, trying to figure her out, having some concrete evidence that she's the one who created this evil Digimon, and she's planning something. She's planning something bad. Then it turns out that Kari and TK got affected by the bad Digimon. And so they run racing to their side, they're comatose. And so then while talking to Izzy, meanwhile explains that, it's been her all along. And so we see this evil crazed look in her eye. And her main goal is this. She just wants her Digimon back. Period. And she wants all the kids to keep their Digimon. So she's created this thing, this system within the hub that where the adult Digimon somehow revert back to their kid stage and they have their Digimon again. And now they're able to live in this hub with their Digimon forever, for all time. And when the adults turn back into kids, they get kind of like brainwashed and they pretty much do whatever she wants. And so, it's up to, and then all the Digidestin from '01 have been converted back into kids. And now they're evil and their Digimon are evil as well. Except for Sora. She decided to sit this one out. But when she sits this one out, we don't see Biyomon anywhere. I'm assuming that Biyomon has left. How and why? Like, I don't know. It's never ever ever explained what happened to Biyomon, why she disappeared first. Could we know that Sora doesn't use Biyomon to fight no more? And Omnimon is a whole lot powerful than Biyomon, so it doesn't understand why she decided to leave first. And so, Ty and Matt and their Digimon, they have to fight, but they don't want to, because if they do, it will accelerate their Digimon and their Digimon leaving a whole lot faster. But the Digimons are like, you know what? We have to do what we have to do, is what we were designed for. Because here's the thing about the original, or the '01 cast Digimon. Unlike other seasons where Digimon choose their partners and stuff, or it just so happened to be like a coincidence through some magical way, the '01 cast didn't have that luxury. See, the thing is that, like, whenever there is a really bad evil threat in the digital world that where Digimon cannot take care of it, or the Jedi cannot take care of it, then they start recruiting kids to become the Digidestin, and they partner them with Digimon. However, the partnership is like this: they find the best humans they can find that can take on this threat. They scan them and their personality traits, and then they create Digimon that can partner with them and stuff. So it's not like it's their destined. It's like this was preordained, like this was planned out. And so, that's just how it is. So, like, this is what they was made for. They're gonna defeat this evil no matter what, even if it costs them them never seeing their partners again, and they understand that, and they fight. They fight as Omnimon, and once again he's getting his butt kicked because like this virus multiplies just like the American one, and they're getting their butts handed to them. Plus the Digidestin and the Digidestin's Digimon, they're now fighting Ty and Matt, and it's like they're like really losing this battle. And then next thing you know, they start to get the one up on them. But then meanwhile, somehow she digivolves with the evil Digimon thing and becomes this really huge evil Digimon thing. Kind of like she calls it a god, but and it's kind of like in the old one show, their Digimon they do have biomerge, but their Digimon merges with other Digimon. They never merge with humans, so it's kind of like no wait they call it DNA digivolving. Biomerge is in the third season, so it's like how is Minuar able to biomerge, and that's not a feature in the O1 thing. Because in order for them to biomerge, one they have to have a specific card that they run through their Digivice that's able them to do that. And then in season 4, it's the humans that take on the spirits of the legendary Digimon. That's how they're able to digivolve into like Digimon and stuff. So it's never explained how she's able to do that, and it's never explained Matt and Ty are able to do it. But however, Matt and Ty, when they do it, only their Digimon digivolve, and the Digimon digivolve into these humanoid Digimon type thing. We see like the human mouths and stuff like that. And so it's kind of like it's never ever explained. It's just like they reach deep in, they focus, they reach deep down inside, and it's like they digivolve into this thing. And I don't know if it's Matt and Ty that's actually in it because we see them hanging on the side of their Digimon as they're fighting in the battle. So it would have been nice to have some kind of like explanation as to why this is going on. But like I said, it's the movies, so they don't really explain things that well. Now, one way they're able to defeat the bad girl and everything is that Ty takes the whistle of Kari and he blows it hard as he can, which is another throwback to the movie, the American one, because he blows it and that's able to wake up Greymon to where he like destroys like Paramon. So anyway, so they all fight, and Ty and Matt they win. However, this one thing that's always been bugging me ever since the last episode of '01. We've been seeing the Digidestin fight alongside their Digimon, like holding on to them, riding them, stuff like that. This happened a lot in season 2. This don't make no sense. If the Digimon are in battle with another Digimon, and the battle is so fierce and so dangerous, why would you put the kid in danger? Why are they always holding on to each other and stuff? That never happened in season 1. They was always on the sidelines and stuff, cheering them on. Evil has been defeated, and they look at their bars and they see they only have about one left. So they're really sad. And so we see Ty and Matt. We don't see the other ones. We see Ty and Matt. They're hanging out with their Digimon. And it's just a really sad moment because we all know what's about to happen. They're about to go away forever. The music is sad. It's very quiet still. They're talking to them. And then, when they turn around and look at their Digimon, they're gone. And it's just like, oh man. Now, here's my problem with this. One, it was done a whole lot better in season 1. Like in season 1, I was choking up, man, because they assumed they had about 100 days to spend in the digital world, or 100 years. I can't remember which one, because time passes differently there. And so, they assume they get to spend the entire summer and years and months, with their Digimon. Until Jedi tells them, Pokemon, when he came back, he synced up the times to the real world and digital world, so now everything's the same. So then they're like, okay, well, we just have like 2 months of summer to hang out with our Digimon, so that's awesome. And then Jed's like, nope, because once this eclipse leaves in 2 hours, that's it. The portal has like closed and y'all won't be able to come back and forth. And so they're like, oh man, 2 hours. And it was sad, man. Like everything after that moment was a sad moment. They were talking to their Digimon. They all want to leave. They're trying to be like hold it in. But the worst part of it all was Mimi and Patamon. Because like she's trying to find Mimi, and Mimi doesn't like want to see her because Mimi's crying and stuff. And then they get on a little train thingy, that not go-kart, what is it called? A freight train type thing. And they go back into the real world. And then, Mimi's still upset and she's crying. And then we see her Digimon running beside, and then we see Mimi run towards the end because she wants to say goodbye to her Digimon, and Mimi's just like bursting in tears, and then her Digimon's running beside like the little thing, and she's bursting in tears, and then all the Digimon are like running beside, and they're bursting in tears, and all the kids are bursting in tears, and like you hear my voice now, man, like it was just like the saddest moment ever. They had to like say goodbye, and we assume, and then of course it gets like comedic because Mimi had, well no, her Digimon trips, and Mimi was like, ah, and then her hat flies off, and it does like the Digimon music, which I love the music, and then it ends, and then but then remember, Kari Digimon said like, oh, we'll see each other again in the future. No, what it was, Kari was doing her weird being possessed type thing, because somehow she has this weird bond to the digital world and to her Digicrest and to the power of light and this ominous being, and she told her Digimon that we'll see each other again in the future. So so we knew they were going to see each other again, but it was still just a sad moment. And then there's season 2, and then we see that the Digimon come back and kids are able to go back and forth and this and that. And then here we go with the epilogue to season 2. Does this contradict it? In a way it does, in a way it doesn't. See, the epilogue takes place in the year 2028 in the far future, where TK is narrating. He writes a bunch of novels and books now about their adventures in the digital world. And so he states that now they've all changed, and they've changed a lot, and their Digimon has changed as well. All of the humans in the world now have their very own Digimon. And he said that Tai and Agumon have become ambassadors because apparently there was a lot of conflict between the United Nations and the digital world and this and that. So they're there to kind of like buffer stuff out. So we know for a fact that Tai will see Agumon again. Also, Matt and Gabumon, they have now flown to Mars and everything. So we know they're together. We see, what's her face? Sora and Biyamon, they're doing fashion now. And so it's kind of like, okay, so apparently when their Digivices, because when their last bars left, their Digivice cracked and turned black into kind of like ash type looking. And their Digimon went away. But just like in season 1, they didn't stay away forever. Now, in the future, all of the Digidestined now have kids, and their kids have their Digimon too. And they still stay together. Now, TK said they have changed a lot since what happened at the end of 02 until the epilogue, but he doesn't state exactly what happened. He said they went on their own adventures, but their adventures aren't like their old adventures and stuff. Like, it's weird. So it's kind of like, okay. So apparently they have been going on adventures and stuff with their Digimon, because they have seen their Digimon again, but he said they're not the same type of adventures that they were back in the old days. But we see in the movies, those are adventures like the old days. So, in a way, this does not contradict the epilogue, because we don't know what happened after this movie to the epilogue. Apparently, something has happened. Some chaos has happened, and they need their Digimon again, and they go on their adventures. So something went on, and something happened to where they are now able to keep their Digimon as adults. What happened? We don't know. However, something doesn't make sense in this movie. Meanwhile, when she became an adult, she lost her Digimon. However, what's so strange is that since she's now able to travel, because anybody can travel into the digital world now through digiports and stuff. That's how the kids are able to do it. It doesn't say that adults can't do it. We've never seen an adult actually do it. No, yes we have. We saw the evil dude from season 2. Also, when she was in the little hub thing, why didn't she just turned back into a kid, so she was able to see her Digimon again? She was able to do that with the other adults and stuff and turn them back into kids. So it never made no sense. That's another thing that doesn't make no sense. If adults are not allowed to have Digimon, then why is it in '02 at the very last episode when the villain is defeated and he turns good, he is then now given his very own Digimon partner? And then only for him to fade away and restore the balance of the digital world. So it's kind of like that does contradict, the movie does contradict like '02 in some ways. Because they completely forgot about him. And I didn't forget about him, but I forgot that he was given his own Digimon and that he restored the balance of the digital world. I actually had to watch that part before I did this video and stuff. And so the writers of this movie should have did that too. But like I said before, not Digimon, but anime movies always contradict their TV shows and stuff. However, in the epilogue, this one thing, after the main bad dude was defeated, it never says if the Digimon had to stay in the digital world. Because of the way the epilogue was set up, it always seemed like the Digimon got to stay in the real world, which, you know, we see in like the movies and stuff, they got to stay there. But it also made it seem like that, you know, after the events happened in '02, everybody was just given a Digimon and stuff, which caused a whole lot of conflict for, you know, the digital world and the real world and the UN, and why Tai and Agumon had to be like buffering stuff out. Because think about it, all that time that took place from when they was kids and teenagers all the way into the year 2028. So you mean to tell me like sometime around like maybe say like 2024 or 2027, because we don't know exactly when everybody's giving their own Digimon. So you mean to tell me just like maybe like a year or a couple of months, all this craziness happened to where Tai and Agumon had to like buffer stuff out? It would make more sense if everybody was giving their own Digimon right after '02. So, it's just so confusing and crap. Now, while I say this is a good movie, it's a whole lot better than Try, but it's still not a perfect movie. One thing that really pisses me off is this is supposed to be the last evolution, the last battle. Why aren't all the kids in the battle and their Digimon? Like, that would really bugs the crap out of me. This movie should have been a whole lot more epic in scale. It should have required the strengths and the resources of all the Digimon in their Digidestin from '01 and '02. It should have been this big old blowout battle. And it wasn't. It was always just, you know, it's just Tai, Matt, Izzy, and sometimes TK. And it's like, that's always how it is. And it's always Matt and it's always Tai, you know. It's like they're called the Digidestin. They're a group for a reason. That what made the original series so great. It was these kids not knowing anything about the digital world, finding things out as they explore it with their Digimon, them using their combined strengths as a team to take out the bad guy. Not just these two dudes who are like the main one, not the Kirk and the Spock of the show, or the Michael Burnham of the show, you know? And so that movie, that what pisses me off, that it robs the show of what the show was supposed to be about. Teamwork, togetherness, character development, evolution, you know, finding out things about yourself and having to work along another person that, you know, y'all become like better people because y'all like trading traits off each other, you know. And the movie just doesn't do that. And so it would have been a nice conclusion, because this is supposed to be literally the conclusion of the original series. But you know, if they make enough money, but of course, if they make enough money, then they'll make another movie and stuff. Because, you know, they realize, the creators of this, they realize, you know, that the original series is the best series of them all. That's why they keep going back to it. That's why they kept going back to it in the Try movies. That's why they made a reboot of the first season with Digimon 2020. You know, because the original one is by far the best. All of the other seasons just can't compare to it. Season 2 compares to it a bit more because it ties into it. But the other seasons just aren't as good. It's the reason why there are no new Digimon TV shows after the 6th season. They're just not good enough, you know? And I have no idea if the reboot is any good or not, because I just won't watch it unless it's dubbed. Another thing that pissed me off about this movie is I wanted to see people digivolve. Well, not people, but the Digimon digivolve, you know? We only see Agumon digivolve, and Greymon digivolve, and then we see like the combined nature of Omnimon and the other and the main power up at the end, but we don't get to see the other Digimon digivolve, which is what I liked about Try. That's one thing that made the original series so much fun. We get to see people like not with the people, but the Digimon like transform and stuff. And so I really hate how this movie robbed us of that. They could have taken out some of the dialogue that was kind of boring and did a little digivolution and stuff. Another thing that pissed me off about this movie is that the Digimon really don't talk in this. Like when they're doing their battle and they're interacting with the kids, they barely say anything. It's just kind of like I felt bad for the voice crew because it's kind of like they barely said anything. And so that was just like so annoying that it was mainly just the main two Digimon that get to talk throughout the whole movie. Another thing that's kind of bugging is like I hate when they change the voice cast up. There are a few from the original series that stayed, in this movie, but all of these voices are the voices from Try. Because I get it, the kids have to sound older, but the thing is, the kids in the original show, the voice cast, they were adults playing that, so they can just use their adult sounding voices that sound similar. It's weird hearing some of the kids sound different, and it's weird hearing some of the Digimon sound different. Because, with somebody like myself that's like a huge fan, you remember those voices, and then when you start hearing something different, it just doesn't feel right. Another problem I had is not one Digimon went into their mega form. You think they will be able to do that, but they don't. And so that was like really bugging. Now, one thing I did appreciate is that when Agumon did evolve, even though it was with that cell phone thing, it was a nice callback to season one because they did the original Digivolution, just tweaked it a little bit, which in Try they came up with something completely different. And this movie is a continuation of Try because, in Try, they were just starting off in their college years and now they're done with the college years. And also, that new character in her Digimon they created in Try, she pops up towards the end because she doesn't want to get rid of her Digimon either. So when she gets brainwashed as well. Once again, I was really surprised not to see Willis and Terriermon or Cocomon in this. However, I guess they didn't want to do that because, Terriermon and Cocomon was used in season 3, and so people might try to assume that, oh, that movie, or that show is tied into the original show, which it's not. I have to say, one thing that just struck me last night was that Digimon Season 1 and a little bit of Season 2 is the only cartoon I have ever watched where I have seen little kids that are the main cast go from being kids to teenagers to young adults to grown adults having kids. That's very rare. Like you see it in live action, but you don't see it in cartoons, to tell you the truth. And Digimon is really the only one I've ever seen that happen. And if it wasn't for the movies, I would have never seen them be like young adults and everything. And some of the other cast be like teenagers. It's just so cool and like amazing, but like in a weird kind of way. It's like that's why Digimon season 1 is so great. Everything comes in a full circle. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.